Gravenberch for Liverpool and Martin Zubimendi of Real Sociedad. The Martin Zubimendi that Liverpool wanted, and now Ryan Gravenberch is playing in that role this season for the Reds. So the stats are broken down into certain sections, and those certain sections will go upon the percentile they are put against other midfielders in the top 7 leagues in Europe. So these are the sections that these are broke down into stats wise, and that's duels, defensive actions, progressive carries, forward passes percentage, key passes, progressive passes, and minutes. Minutes obviously is not too much to look into minutes really, but the others are pretty much broken down to by data MB, and we look to see what that means in terms of the players, see what that means in terms of the systems that they're playing, see what that means in terms of the teams going forward, whether we do need Zubimendi in January or next summer possibly. Give my opinion as well on the stats, and I give my opinion on both of the players and what I think Liverpool should do either January or next summer in terms of transfers. So the first stat is up for grabs is duels. So this is the amount of duels they win in the air or on the ground in terms of tackling with other opponents. And Ryan Gravenberch is 97.7 percentile across the top 7 leagues, which is really, really high, and an incredible stat for Ryan Gravenberch. A tall lad, I think he's 6'2", I want to say. So he is always up for duels. Is a definitely a strong guy, and he definitely puts himself about, which is fantastic. I expected it to be further down for Zubimedi. He's not as physical as Ryan Gravenberch, and exactly that's what it is. He's 92.7 for Zubimedi in terms of percentile, in terms of across the top 7 leagues of other midfielders. So Ryan Gravenberch absolutely smashes Zubimedi on the duels side of things, which is expected for these kind of players because Gravenberch likes to get involved in tackles and gets involved in duels. Zubimedi is more of I'd say like a transitional player, like from defense to attack, rather than getting involved with the physical stuff as well. It does like a physical duel now and then, but not much as Ryan Gravenberch. Ryan Gravenberch has been fantastic defensively wise this season in terms of getting back as well, covering defenders. So I think that was an expected stat for Ryan Gravenberch to win because of just sheer size of him and the kind of player that he is. Does that look bad on Zubimendi in terms of coming to Liverpool if we were to get him in January or summer? And will he put enough duels in? I think it doesn't matter if someone like Gravenberch is next to him because Gravenberch can make up that dual success and put in the physical work that Zubimendi's not putting in. So I won't worry about that too much if I did get Zubimendi, for example. Defensive actions, Ryan Gravenberch wins again, 88.2 to Zubimendi's 83.8. 88.2 is still not the best of the best in terms of defensive actions in terms of the top 7 leagues. There will be players that way higher than that Gravenberch. But again, it's a decent stat for a player that's not normally playing in that position. Zubimedi again, 83.8. He don't really do the defensive side of stuff in terms of like tackling, in terms of like dueling, in terms of interceptions. He is more of like the Busquets kind of player, but Busquets did more defensive actions. Gravenberch again, he's changed the way he's playing right now. He's changed the way he's played. But I've always said to myself, like every midfielder should have the capability of playing a DM, should have the capability of playing a CM, and should have the ability to play a cam. Because it's all quite similar roles. They're all rolled into one. They're all midfielders. They're all, you should be good on the ball. You should be getting involved in physical challenges. So I think it's been quite easier for Gravenberch to mould himself into a DM the way McAllister did last season. McAllister was up there in terms of percentile in defensive actions, just the way Gravenberch is now. Does that say he's a DM? Not specifically. What it does is it just shows that he's good enough and capable of enough to adapt his game and put in the defensive work that a midfielder should put in. Like back in like 90s and 2000s, you'd see 4-4-2. So a midfielder was a midfielder. There's no such thing as DM. There's no such thing as cam. So midfield would do everything. These midfielders that we have at Liverpool, especially like Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gravenberch, even Curtis Jones, should be able to do everything, but can they do it as good as someone else in that position? That's what you get in terms of midfielders these days. Is that they should be able to do everything, but can they do it as good? But Gravenberch is one of them players that can do it as good quite easily in terms of defensive actions as well as attacking actions. So Gravenberch, that's why Gravenberch is such an adaptable player, has been able to adapt himself this season to put himself into a DM position because he has high attributes. He has various of attributes that he can become better at, if that makes sense. Right? Whilst if you put Curtis Jones back in a DM, he won't do the defensive actions as much as what Gravenberch does. He's not that kind of player. He is much more forward thinking, but Gravenberch can adapt a little bit easier to that. So Gravenberch 88.2 defensive actions and Zubimendi again 83.8. Again, is that another worry if we were to get Zubimendi in? I don't think it is, because as long as someone on that in that, it will be a double pivot. If Zubimendi came in, it'd be a double pivot of Gravenberch and Zubimendi. So as long as Gravenberch is making up that defensive actions and dual side of things, then I think they work together absolutely fantastically. So next one is progressive carries. And again, this is where I expect Gravenberch to flourish, because Gravenberch is a progressive carrier. Gravenberch is a forward-minded attacking midfielder. He's more of a box-to-box. So these forward sort of stats should be higher than Zubimendi's, and exactly how I thought it would be, it exactly is. So progressive carries for Gravenberch is 80.9, which is quite low to say this guy likes to progressive carry the ball. It's quite low to say this guy, how good he is on the ball at carrying the ball from midfield to attack. He's very well known for in being on the ball and carrying it forward and taking players on. So 80.9 in terms of top 7 leagues in percentile, it's quite low for Gravenberch. But that's again down more to his position. Now, the what we ask of him now. See, if we had a proper defensive-minded DM next to him, I think those progressive carries would be up the 90% percentile, if I'm honest, because that's what he does. He carries the ball. He likes to drive the ball from midfield to attack. But because he's got more defensive responsibilities, he's having to sacrifice that part of his game where he is doing that. And that's what I don't like to see in terms of him sacrificing. He's done fantastic at doing it, but it's a shame that he has to sacrifice him to do that. It would be nice to see a proper DM come in, a proper defensive-minded DM come in to allow Gravenberch to play his game, and shows that progressive carries, that percentile will go up massively next season if we were to get a DM in. Let's all up on that. But anyway, so Zubimendi is 75.7 on the percentile, so it's not far off Gravenberch's, which is quite shocking to say. That is one of Gravenberch's best things to do, is progressive carries. Again, it's just more down to the role. So I don't expect that to be high for Zubimendi, and it's not either. So forward passes for both. So 78.6 for Gravenberch forward passes, and 77.1 for Zubimendi. Both quite low, really, in terms of forward passes. But again, it's the role. I think Zubimendi is one of those ones that just keep the ball ticking. I think that's his role. Gravenberch is only 1.5 above Zubimendi in terms of percentile of top 7 leagues across midfielders for forward passes, which is quite worrying in terms of this guy's a forward-minded player. This guy's a box-to-box, so you'd think he'd be more forward passing. But again, it's the role he's being given. I think these stats are based on Gravenberch this season rather than Gravenberch as a player, I think. Well, they are based on the season, but I mean, in terms of like what we're seeing right now, I don't think we're seeing the actual Gravenberch that you could possibly see if he was in a given role, which he normally used to. Because he's had to change the way he's playing, the stats match that. The stats match the role rather than the player. And you're saying this down to forward passes, it's become more of a keep the ball rolling, pass it sideways, pass it backwards from time to time. That's the role of a DM. That's what a DM usually does. Now, when you box-to-box player or you can player, that's the one that turn around and try to play it forward a bit more. So I think that those stats alone just suit the role more than the player. So I won't worry too much about Gravenberch in that. I think we're seeing how good he has been in this role, so I won't worry too much because we don't need that in forward passes. As long as McAllister and Sobersley and Curtis Jones come forward and drive the ball and make the forward passes, Gravenberch is doing all he can in his role. So the forward passing percentage, is 72% for Gravenberch and 68% for Zubimendi, which is a decent amount in terms of getting those passes forward and successful passes forward if they are making them. So going on to key passes, Gravenberch is 58 and Zubimedi is 55.7. Again, it's another. I think all these stats right now are based on the role, and I feel like they're based on the. I think the percentile that they're putting up these two, Gravenberch and Zubimedi, is the role that they are. Gravenberch is now a DM this season, so obviously his key passes are not going to be as high because he's not going to be in around the box. He's not going to be in around that area where you make key passes towards leading to goals. So Gravenberch is 58, and again Zubimedi is 55.7, so it's quite low. I think if we were to get a DM in, I think we'd see Gravenberch's key passes definitely go up in terms of percentile because he can make them. I think it's a bit like McAllister, where he can see these passes and he can make these passes, but we can't see it just yet because of the role that is being given. Same with progressive passes. Gravenberch is 62.6 and Zubimedi is 72.8, which Zubimedi is actually, that's the best one Zubimedi is beating him on in terms of stats. In terms of these stats anyway, Zubimedi is 72.8 and Gravenberch 62.6. Progressive passes is obviously, it's not just forward passes, but it's progressive as in going, making the ball, make sure it's moving up the pitch, whether it be sideways or, in terms of where it's going, really. I think it's more where the ball's going rather than just being forward all the time. Progressive, you've got to make progression in terms of the pitch. So, Gravenberch 62.6 is quite low again. Again, it's a role that is not saying he's not used to playing because midfielders should be able to do every sort of role in this in midfield, but it's not a role that is normally played in. He can play the role, but it's not a role that is not played in. So these stats will be much lower. My thoughts on that specifically in terms of the stats, I think, as I've been saying, I think it's just more to do with the role rather than the player. What I want to happen, whether it be January or summer, I want to see Liverpool to buy a defensive-minded midfielder. It doesn't have to be a DM as such, but it has to be more defensively minded than a McAllister, more defensively minded than a Gravenberch. Because if we have a defensive-minded midfielder in that role, whether it be a Zubimendi, whether it be a progressor like Zubimendi, or a destroyer like a Fabinho, for example. I'm not saying I want to be Fabinho, obviously it won't be, but like someone like a Fabinho, it'll allow Gravenberch to play how Gravenberch can play even better. Gravenberch at Ajax was this box-to-box player that would take the ball in the half-turn, that will drive from midfield to the forwards, that will create chances for his teammates, that will create space for his teammates. Right now, Gravenberch is a player that is still doing a little bit of carries, but not as much as I don't think he wants. But he's adding more defensive things to his game, from interceptions to duel winning to tackles to getting back and making sure the defence is covered. And has been fantastic for it, absolutely fantastic for it. In fact, a revelation in this role. Does it mean that he's right for this role or the role's right for him? It's a weird one because I think he is sort of right for the role a little bit if he was next to someone else. That's a bit like that. But I don't think the role's right for him. I think what we need to see happen is a defensive-minded midfielder to come in January or summer to allow us to see Gravenberch do Gravenberch. Allow him to have these progressive passes a bit more, allow him to get involved more in the attack, which he can do, allow him, because he's an absolute threat going forward. And we're not seeing that. I think it's exactly what we saw with McAllister last season. McAllister had to cover the DM position until Endo was up to scratch. Instead of buying a DM in summer, McAllister had to cover that. Did all right in a few games, especially two amazing games against Fulham and Bournemouth. But then we saw the best McAllister when Endo came in, the defensive-minded player, and we saw the best of McAllister going forward. That's the McAllister I love to see. That's what I want to see now with Gravenberch. Not saying the 10 position. My perfect midfield next season, if I was to pick my perfect midfield next season based on what I'm saying, And Curtis Jones does have a shout. With the way Curtis Jones is playing, he does have a shout. But I would love to see as a Zubimendi kind of player, or that's be Zubimendi, but someone like an Edison at Atalanta. There's plenty of players out there like that. Put them in that role next to Gravenberch as a double pivot, and put Maka as a number 10. And I'd like to see the number 10 then fight out between Maka and Elliott. I'd like to see Gravenberch, Zubimendi to be backed up then by Curtis Jones and Szoboszlai and likes of Martin. But what I want to see is Gravenberch to play Gravenberch, and that would be nice to see. And like I said, he's been absolutely amazing this season. He's a big reason, and probably the one alongside like Salah, the major reason why we're playing like we're playing this season. And fair play to him, absolutely fair play to him, because what he's done, he has been able to evolve and he's been able to adapt his game and basically cover up the lack of ambition off the pitch in terms of the summer. And Brian the DM in is being able to cover that by his performances and his ability to adapt and evolve. And what an outstanding player. I absolutely love watching players like Gravenberch. I love watching the confidence about a player like that. I love that he doesn't hide in games. He's always looking for the ball. He's always dropping back and looking, give me the ball. I want the ball. This is my ball. And you see the confidence of him turning, taking a play on a turn, a bit like Thiago Alcantara used to do, just beating a player just by simply turning or letting the ball go past him. And he's such a smart player. And absolutely, and midfielders are some of the most intelligent footballers around. That's why they play midfield, because it's sometimes all about mental intelligence and knowing your awareness and knowing who's behind you and knowing how to get past players just by a simple drop of the shoulder, something like that. And Gravenberch has it all. Gravenberch has everything as a midfielder, and he's one of the best midfielders out there because of how great he is on all attributes. And we see that in the stats, but it would be nice to see the forward stats higher for what Gravenberch can do. The reason why they're so low in terms of for him, obviously not lower than Zubimendi, but in terms of for Gravenberch, they are low for him because of the role that he's been asked to do. So it would be nice to see him play as an 8 more than a 6 and see these stats. These stats will then start backing up the player that he is, and you'll see it with your eyes as much as eye test. The stats will start backing it up. I do like looking at stats, but I also like to do the eye test as well. I think they go hand in hand for me. The eye test is always backed up by the stats, usually, unless it's someone like Zidane, because Zidane's stats weren't amazing in terms of output, but is incredible. So yeah, Gravenberch, what do I want to happen next season is another defensive-minded player coming in next to Gravenberch. Hopefully, get the best out of him. But right now, wow, what a player! What an absolute player! Please, guys, if you like this kind of content, if you like talking stats, please get involved in the channel. Please tell us what you want us to compare in terms of stats, because this is brought to you by us, obviously at Talking Reds, but I get the stats from our friends at Data MB. They allow me to use their stats to show you if the stats back up what we're seeing on the pitch, what we're seeing of ourselves. And I do like to look into these stats and break them down for you guys as well. But I want to get your opinions of what you want to break down. We can break down teams, we can break down players, individual players, we can break down a whole top 10 of players, like the whole top 10 midfielders in the league, top 10 defenders in the league, stats-wise. I can do it all for you guys. Get whatever you like to do. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video, let us know what you like, what kind of content you want. This week is going to be a big week in terms of content because we've got the massive game on Sunday against Manchester City. So tune into that for our preview on Saturday. I think we might do it Friday and it'll be out Saturday, hopefully, for our preview for Man City. Well, match reaction will be out live after the Man City game on Sunday. Next week, we've got some big content for you. We've got some more talking quizzes. I know you guys like the talking quizzes, so the talking quizzes will be coming out. We've also got our special talking rivals coming on. We've got Arsenal fan Cecil, we've got Kojo from Man United, we've got Theo from Chelsea. We've got a few rivals coming on for a special talking rivals title race special. Please get involved with the channel. and have a great weekend. Thank you everyone for